Welcome. Today, we're going to talk about what depression looks like from the inside. So, we're glad you joined us today at My Mental Health Mastery. And this is where emotional healing starts with feeling heard and understood. In the last episode, we talked about withdrawal and how easy it is to take that personally. But this episode, we go one layer deeper. And this is about what depression actually feels like or low mood from the inside. We want you to understand what's happening beneath that withdrawal, not from a clinical perspective, not from a diagnostic lens, but from the lived internal experience of the person who is struggling. And when that internal world quietly does to connection and responsiveness and touch, that's what we want to explore. This is about understanding what's happening beneath the surface so you stop filling in the gaps with self-blame. And I'm going to pause. So thank you for joining us today. So, who is this for? This is for if you love someone who is struggling and something has shifted, closeness feels different, touch might even feel different, and responsiveness might feel rather inconsistent. And you're like, why do they pull back? Why does this feel off now? You can even think, why do I feel unsure, even though I still care? That confusion makes a lot of sense. But before we go further, let's just think about this. This isn't about fixing low mood, and it's not about demanding connection, and it's not about saying, hey, this is what you should do. But rather, this is about understanding the internal experience so that your mind and body stop interpreting this change as rejection, as a personal rejection. And we'd like you to explore more on the mymentalhealthmastery.com website under the relationship pillar, where there are more details about this Loving Someone Depressed series. So, what depression does internally or low mood? Really, we want to use the term low mood. Low mood narrows the nervous system. So, what happens is your energy drops, the person's energy drops, decisions feel heavier, internal shame might get louder, and then the ability to stay emotionally present shrinks. So, from the outside looking in, it can look like distance, but from the inside, that person is merely trying to survive. And it's not indifference and it's not lack of love, but it is really reduced capacity, just cannot handle it. For many men, this low mood happens even earlier than when it visually appears. They feel the emotional impact long before they have words for what's happening or how they're feeling. By the time this language disappears and they are really withdrawn, the overwhelm has already been there for a while. So just want to reiterate that from a men's lens, that they've been dealing with this emotional overwhelm long before it's seen visually or discerned visually, or somatic or discerned by the partner. But understanding doesn't erase the loneliness, but what it does is it can stop you from turning that loneliness that results against yourself. So, how does this affect connection? Well, when someone's internal world feels heavy or unsafe, even gentle connection starts to feel like, oh, it's too much pressure. Touch can feel like expectation. Conversation feels like demand. And then responsiveness can feel, well, it's not going to happen. But meanwhile, your cell system still wants that connection. So you end up holding both. You love that person deeply, but you don't know how to reach them. So that tension is not failure, but rather it's a nervous system mismatch. And this nervous system mismatch is created by low mood. And this is where it gets really deeply vulnerable. So I know that term is used a lot, but here within our my mental health mastery universe, vulnerable is actually a good term. We welcome vulnerability because that's where we're allowing the healing to occur. So this is where we're going to get deeply vulnerable. One of the most painful vulnerabilities is not knowing whether what you feel is even allowed. So you can feel desire, grief, longing, resentment, all at the same time. And vulnerability doesn't mean being certain, but it means staying present with what is true. So here's what you can actually do in those moments when this shows up or when something happens. When something starts to feel off and your mind starts trying to make sense of it. Like, what is going on? Let's start small. Before reacting, pause. Just pause. It may be hard to do that in the moment, but if you can remember, this is a capacity issue. Let's just pause. Let your body soften just a little. Unclench your hands if you notice tension. Drop your shoulders slightly and internally say, this feels a little confusing, but I don't have to make it mean something about me. Very key. If you choose to say something out loud, keep it low pressure. Like, oh, I'm here, no pressure. We can connect when it feels easier. Then if you notice yourself starting to overthink, this is hard, say, this is hard, but I'm allowed to feel what I feel to yourself. Then later when things feel calmer, you might say, I've been feeling a little unsure lately, and I'm working on not taking that personally, but I wanted to share how it's landing for me. This may or may not be something you're able to say, but we wanted to give you the words or the language to use if your situation warranted it. Then, after moments like this, just remember, tell yourself, I stayed present. I didn't abandon myself, and that matters. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to reframe this experience and say, when you are loving someone low mood, that withdrawal is about capacity, not love. It won't remove the pain, but it will stop you from turning the pain inward. Why this matters? Well, when you're understanding what's happening internally, you stop trying to solve something that isn't about you. You stop filling in the silence with self-blame. And your nervous system gets a little more room to breathe. See, that's the key. There's two nervous systems that play, and they both need adjusting, yours and your spouse's or the low mood person. So that nervous system gets a little more room to breathe. So if something softened or clicked just now, you don't need to do anything with it. Understanding is already relief. But I want you to take this with you. I can feel the impact without assuming I caused it. So if this helped you understand what's happening internally instead of assuming it's about you, that matters. And we're so grateful that you joined us here at My Mental Health Mastery to get some language to your feelings. In the next episode, we're going to move from understanding into something even more personal, which is what this dynamic starts to do to you over time, especially when you've been holding connection quietly for longer than you realized. At mymentalhealthmastery.com, as we stated before, you'll find several resources and a whole series of helps for loving someone depressed, along with reflections and tools. So you're not imagining the shift you're feeling, and you're not wrong for needing understanding too. We're really glad you're here. Look forward to talking to you at our next episode.